this was the main road that you've just been on, was connected Goulburn to the Monero. So this was the road that was the whole road that went from Sydney basically down to Melbourne, was this road here and into Queanbeyan. Then the swamp obviously had a problem because people couldn't put their stock on it. They got themselves bogged, and the same with the mail run, had a lot of trouble with the road, so they incised it somehow. And when they incised it, they got rid of the water so it flowed away quickly, and then found that they were getting erosion. So with the erosion, they tried to stop the erosion by putting in these
willows. They were trident willows, and that was a very common practice. That was in the 1970s when there was a lot of erosion control going on, and it's very evident along this creek. We bought it 20 years ago, so 1998, and we had two good years of rain.
Yeah.
And then the millennium drought struck us in 2000, and slowly this creek became depleted of water.
Yeah.
And every year there was less water in the pools, and we were finding it harder to water our stock, because we have a combination of pools in the creek and of dams in all the paddocks. But there were times when it was very touch and go with our water supply.
What was done up at the home farm was what they was a demonstration project of weirs which are not normally allowed to be built in a creek like this. These weirs that were built here are sort of compliant with requirements, which meant that they could be built in most creeks. And they're particularly effective on this creek because it's so flat. So if you just raise the water by 300 mil, which you're allowed to do, then generally if it was a steep slope, you wouldn't be saving much water, you wouldn't be producing much water going either side. Yeah. But here, you produce, as you could see, this pool here goes right up to our boundary, and it probably not only increased the amount of water available to us by, I don't know, 5 times, it's probably 50 times, I think, because it soaks into the soil as well, and because the creek is normally on a bit of a rise, it's soaking all the way back.
Well, as Ulli explained, they're only 300 mil high, and the V is like this, and it points upstream. And as you can see here, it's made of large logs. They're like complete trees. And then there's a special carpet that goes in underneath the log to stop the silt, so that you get a build-up of silt in behind it. The rocks, we were very lucky, they all come from the property, so they only had to come from about 1 kilometre away, and we've been able to use those.
And what the rocks do, they're a stable, to make it all stable. Whilst you can only see one tree here is about 3 deep. This is it's probably about 6 foot deep, or 2 metres deep here. Yeah. They are impervious. That's the difference. They're not a leaky weir. They fully stop the water flow.
The one lovely one which happened very quickly was the increase in bird life here. It's been so noticeable.
Waterbirds,
and it was almost instant, wasn't it? And we even around the homestead we have herons that actually nest way up there in the top of the old pine trees, and then come down to here. But they'll have their chicks right up there. Yeah. Well, there's a lot more green vegetation in this area. There's more water kept in behind the V-notched weirs, because we've had fairly long drought with the millennium drought, and now we've just been going through another drought now, which was pretty awful last year. I
think if we hadn't have had these V-notched weirs, we would have been completely out of water.
I think you're also thinking about what's the connectivity between people along the creek, and yes, it has helped to connect people. And as we say, there's a road that runs along the creek too, so you're actually seeing people all the time, well, this section of the creek passing you by, and no doubt they are at higher up, so higher up the creek as well. But yes, on an informal and a more formal basis, there is that interaction between people. And we are realising that this is a common cause and a common good for us all, and the outcome can only be very positive, both from a structural point of view and from a social point of view.